Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. A couple of odd cards here that I want to cover off before we jump into some Cyberstorm access coverage and stuff for next week. These may not be the flashiest cards that you'll see right now, but they're definitely cards that people have their eyes on for one reason or another, so you'll want to be aware of them going into the next format. Let's get started. First up, we'll talk briefly about Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon. This is a relatively new card from Maze of Memories, which lets you tag into another Stardust monster and synchro during your opponent's turn, as well as reviving a level 2 tuner from your graveyard. So as we've discussed, this card gets a massive boost with the upcoming release of Assault Synchron in Battles of Legend later this year. Now on release, Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon was well underneath the $20 mark, and this kind of made sense. The card wasn't being used by any decks at the time, and wouldn't see any competitive usage at all, so it was almost like there was no reason for people to pick up the card at that point. However, we did discuss picking up the card anyways, because it was bound to go up in price later on in the year, and right now we're seeing the ultra rare with more than a 50% increase in price, settling right now at $30. On top of that, we've also seen the collector's rares go up. They were at around $100 and they're now up to $150 per copy. Hopefully you guys had a chance to pick one up already before the price jump. If not, and you guys do plan on playing this card in the next couple of formats, you may have to go ahead and pick it up now. I don't really see the card dropping much from its current price, given the lack of other valuable cards coming out of Maze of Memories, and as a new card, it shouldn't be reprinted for quite a while either. Next up, we have Magician of Black Chaos Max. This is a really cool level 8 ritual monster with a pretty nasty effect. When it is ritual summoned, you contribute a monster to prevent your opponent from activating any monster effects for this turn. Now obviously with the popularity of hand traps, this would allow you to play uninterrupted for the rest of your turn, or if you can somehow drop this during your opponent's turn, I guess this card could be a turn skip there as well. Also worth noting is that this card could even tribute itself as cost so as to play around infinite impermanence or effect veiler. Apparently, this is a tech card that Drytron players are using as a one-of, as something that can potentially be a blowout card in certain matchups if you're able to resolve it. Now personally, I'm not really a fan of Drytron. I don't really enjoy playing against them. I'm not too sure about what the deck aims to do, so I don't know if you're actually even able to drop this card during your opponent's turn, but the idea does really sound kind of cool. What I do know is that Drytrons really struggled to play against the Ishizu cards because Keldo and Mudora could shuffle back all of the Drytron names to the deck before they even had a chance to activate. But now in this post-Ishizu format, maybe the deck has some chances to do a couple of things, and of course Vanity's Ruler is as annoying to out as ever. Anyways, Magician of Black Chaos Max had just the one printing from back in the 2019 Megatins, which is the last time that Megatins had promos, which feels like forever ago. The card isn't too expensive, but while the card was only $1 for most of its lifetime, it is now up to $4 per copy. Definitely something to dig up out of your holo bulk, since I feel like this card was one of the ones that was a bit easier to overlook in favor of the god cards or the other promos from the tins, so be sure to set this aside when you find it if you can. So this one I just want to touch on briefly. It is Shaddoll Beast. Beast is one of the best main deck Shaddoll monsters, allowing you to draw a card when it is sent to the graveyard by a card effect. It also has a different effect if it's flipped face up, where you can draw 2 cards and then discard 1. So unfortunately, Shaddolls are not making a comeback quite yet, but this card is actually used in Pearly decks over in the OCG. The idea is that Pearly quick play spells have you discard as part of their effect, so Shaddoll Beast is one of the better cards that you can run as discard fodder, since it essentially replaces itself. Now this spot used to be taken up by Volcanic Shell or Dark World Snow in the past, but I believe that Beast is being looked at more favorably now, because if you're in a tough situation, you can actually tribute set Beast and hopefully draw into additional resources if you manage to survive the turn. It's kind of weird, but drawing 2 additional cards is actually really helpful in getting you to unbrick. Now this card does have a couple of low rarity printings that are quite cheap, but the printings that are worth noting are the holos. This card has a super rare printing from back in Astral Pack 6. Those are about $3 each right now, but there are very few copies on the market before they go up to being a $5 card. The alternative that is worth noting is the ultra rare from Battles of Legend. Those are still only about $1 each, but they have the potential to go up more. Now I'm not gonna lie, the supers do look a lot cleaner, but the ultras are a good alternative if you can't find the supers or you don't want to have to spend like a few bucks just for that holo upgrade. This is just a card that you guys should pay attention to going into your locals over the next few weeks, as Pearly players will most likely want to pick up a copy or 2 of this card in order to prep their decks. Alright, so this is one that I haven't really noticed moving up yet again. It is Muckraker of the Underworld. So this is a generic Link 2 monster that is really only useful for fiend-based strategies. Basically, this card lets you revive a fiend from your graveyard by discarding a card, but then locking you into fiends. So the two decks that I believe are able to make use of this card are Dark World and Labyrinth. In Dark World, you benefit from discarding as part of the card effect, and that's exactly what happens with Muckraker, so it would trigger the effects of your Dark World monsters. In Labyrinth, you use Lady Labyrinth and another monster to make this card, and then pitch a card to revive Lady Labyrinth, as that's the only way to out certain large monsters by beating over them, since Lady Labyrinth special summons herself out of the hand in defense mode, so this is actually a very important extra deck option to have. Now this card was trending back when the Dark World structure deck first came out, as it was certainly a necessary extra deck option to have, but back then, I believe that this card had spiked from $5 to around $10. However, it is within the last couple of weeks that the card shot up from there to now sitting at $17 for the secret rare copy and $21 for the ultra rare sneak peek promo. This might be easy to overlook as it used to only be a $5 card, but even though Labyrinth and Dark World didn't really perform over the 250th YCS weekend, it seems that a lot of players are still on those decks, likely because Labyrinth is a very popular waifu deck, and Dark World is very easy to pick up and put together because of the structure decks. We just got confirmation that Darkwing Blast will be included in the 2023 Megatins, so we should expect Muckraker to be reprinted then. For now, we expect this card to be pretty steady between $15 and $20, as long as Labyrinth and Dark World remain fan favorite decks. Okay, so this is kind of a weird one. It's Ice Jade Gamir Adrian. This is a level 10 Synchro monster that requires the tuner to be a water monster, but the rest of the card's effect doesn't really say anything about Ice Jades or being related to a specific archetype, so I guess the card is somewhat generic. It has a quick effect where you can activate the effect, and then all of your face-up monsters can't be destroyed or banished by card effects this turn. However, if you happen to activate Adrian's effect in response to an opponent's card effect, and then the card that you're responding to is on your opponent's field or in their graveyard, you can banish all copies of that card's name from the field and graveyard. It also has a resurrection effect where if a card is banished by your opponent, while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon itself back out for free. So when this card first came out, I think it was only $1 or $2. I had a bunch of my friends pick up some extra copies because it just seemed like such a good usable level 10 synchro option that was somewhat generic. However, I'm not too sure exactly what it is that's going to be using it. Assault Synchron is a dark, so I don't really see it being used there, and I'm not too sure what other water-based strategies are viable right now. However, something has clearly caused the card to move up in price, as it has gone from being $2 before to now being a solid $5 card. Not the biggest price move, but more than doubling up over its previous price. I can't really tell you guys if you guys should be buying or selling or offloading this card right now, while I don't even know what the reason is for its price jump. If you guys do know exactly what deck it is that people are looking to abuse this card in, make sure that you guys let me and everyone else know down in the comments. Alright, this one is no stranger to Market Watch, as we've talked about it several times in the past. It is Cyphering Gear Gamma. Now Gamma is a very simple yet versatile hand trap. You have to run one driver as a brick, which obviously sucks for when you draw it, and you have to have no monsters on the field to activate this card's effect. However, this lets you negate any activated monster effect for free, which is obviously great, and special summons itself and then driver out onto the board. Now, one of the main reasons that this card is so good is that a lot of players are on Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring once again. I think that Ash was actually run in all three of the main decks of each of the winners of the 250th YCS, which definitely speaks volumes about how strong the card is right now. With players relying on cards like Raitsoth, Pot of Prosperity, Welcome Labyrinth, and Hyujin to resolve, having Gamma in hand ready to negate a potential Ash Blossom and ensure that your card is able to go through is definitely worth the cost of running a brick. Gamma is something that hasn't seen a ton of play over the last year or so, but definitely seems to be making a comeback now. Now that being said, it's definitely worth paying attention to the price of some of the lower rarities of Gamma. Right now, either the rare from Toon Chaos or the premium gold rare is going to cost you about $3 to $4. Not a lot, but we've seen the rares go for almost $10 each in the past, so if you don't already have some, you might want to make sure that you have a set on hand. Aside from that, the card has two other holo printings, the super rare from Extreme Force Special Edition, those are just under $10 each, and then we also have the original ultras up at around $25. I believe that like a month ago, the supers were at $5 and the ultras were under 20, so the card is definitely trending upwards as more and more players try to pick it up. But then again, it has been quite a while since the card was last reprinted, so it could be included in Battles of Legend this year. Even with that being considered though, I think that just in case, you guys should at least own a set of this card for your own use, so I'd be picking up a set of gold rares or a set of rares for yourself just in case. And finally, there's one last card I want to talk about, not because it's trending right now, but because I think it has a lot of upward potential. It is Marinzes Dive. So I know this is a really weird pick, especially since Marinzes has basically never been a meta-relevant archetype. I know that they seemed like they were going to be good, with a lot of players talking about them being the next Salamangreat deck, but it has never really been able to take off. However, I think that right now, Marinzes is kind of a sleeper pick. Obviously, it didn't take any top spots at the YCSs, but it's still a really scary deck that can make some scary boards if you don't know what you're playing against. Within the last month or so, the deck has actually seen a few regional tops, and seems to be able to hold its own against a lot of things. That being said, I think that as we get into the next format, and maybe with a ban list hitting some Kashtira cards, Marinzes might actually be a really solid deck choice. Now that being said, that alone isn't enough to make me think that a Marinzes card of all things will jump in price, but I specifically want to look at Marinzes Dive. This is a really cool card for Marinzes. It can either revive a non-link Marinzes monster from your graveyard, or if you have a Battle Ocean up, it lets you summon a Marinzes directly out of your deck. Really useful card, but this card only has one ultra rare printing from Duels from the Deep, which I think honestly might be an even worse set than Synchro Storm. Despite its limited availability, the card is only $5 each right now, but it's an incredibly difficult card to find because no one really opened the set. I just managed to finish my set recently, and I'd been looking for them for a while, but no one had it. All of this being said, I do think that Marinzes Dive is a good pickup at $4 to $5. Marinzes is a waifu deck, so people will want to play it, and the deck certainly has the potential to at least be decent going into next format. This, combined with how few copies of the card are actually available on the market, tells me that there's a really solid chance that this card will trend upwards in price within the next couple of months. Alright guys, that is all I have for today's episode. A couple of weird things today. I don't know if they're exactly all like 250th YCS Aftermath. I feel like a lot of things are already people getting prepared for the next format, even though I think the current format really isn't that bad. I guess Kashtira is kind of annoying, but overall it's pretty okay. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch episode, please make sure that you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Also make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below, and if you haven't, make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button to get all of the latest and greatest content from both Tombox and myself. And until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.